Welcome everyone to the Richmond International Raceway and another weekend of NASCAR coverage on speed. Originally a half-mile dirt track in the 40s, the RII has evolved into quite possibly the world's perfect racetrack. 3/4 mile of fast asphalt and some of the best fans anywhere. And we'd like to welcome you to the speed stage for a doubleheader weekend among NASCAR's two top series. Hello everybody, I'm John Roberts. Thanks for being with us. Let's take a look at the menu, see what's coming up tonight on the TV. And here it is. It is Sprint Cup practice now, NASCAR Live at 1:30. Final practice at 2. We also have Nationwide Sprint Cup qualifying. Lipton T250 is on ESPN2. And trackside at Richmond is at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. So now from the speed stage, we send you up top to the booth to Larry, Darrell Waltrip, and Mike Joy.
Well, quickly a red flag in this session after only one lap as Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the National Guard Chevy has found his way into the fence in turn 2. Well, that didn't take long. Did Junior complete a lap? Not according to timing and scoring.
He never completed a lap, Mike. No. It's like he was just getting up to speed. I think this was starting his first lap.
And, you know, this one thing that I've never understood about these guys. They go out right out of the pits almost every week on a qualifying run. I mean, they don't even warm up the car in. They just hit the track, going to make a qualifying run.
Well, Darrell, he moved way to the right, away from Montoya. Could he? Oh, well, there's what happened. I wonder if they.
And we can't blame it on what we would call a completely green racetrack, because the Nationwide Series just had an hour-and-a-half practice, and so there's definitely some rubber down on the racetrack.
I looked at his back bumper, and he may have had contact because there's some damage on the rear bumper. Let's see where he is.
They're going to be right here entering turn 1.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure they made contact.
Look at Montoya
Definitely.
lock up there.
Definitely. See both cars locking up, and Montoya gets into the left rear of Junior and probably cut his left rear tire down and sent him around.
Yeah, but you're right, Jim. It did happen right down there with Legacy Junior Nationwide Series when it was wrong. So some contact was made. Not for 1 minute.
I believe she's fixing.
It's not terrible.
No.
Yeah,
A little bit on that right rear, but
a little worse than I thought.
Well, a little excitement early. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Richmond. My gosh. Don't tell me this weekend starting out just like the last one ended up.
Yeah, we just took Talladega, shrunk it down to 3/4 mile. So, you know, just pick up where we left off last week. We ended the race on a wreck last week. We start practice this week with a wreck. So here we go.
I think everybody's a bit relieved to get out of Talladega. Yes, it was perhaps one of the most exciting races in recent memory. And it was also very tension-filled with the crash at the end and some minor injuries up there in the grandstand. A brand new first-time winner, a newly minted winner. Larry, remember what time was it? It was about 2 hours before race time, and you and I are standing out on the roof, and I went, you want me to pick a winner? Wait till they get past right here.
Predictable.
And I'm not ready to pick one then even, and of course all that came true. But here we are at Richmond, and we've got an impound race situation, so again, this is going to be a little different for the teams.
Well, it's like the Phoenix schedule. It's not a complete impound. What we mean by that is today's going to be a very busy day. We get 2 hour-and-a-half practice sessions. They'll qualify this afternoon. Unlike Talladega last week, NASCAR will not impound the cars. The teams can get the cars and work on them, but there's no more practice after qualifying. So this will be a busy 2 practice sessions, getting ready to qualify, getting ready to race.
Gives you a lot of work to do.
Well, it does, and of course you're coming off of a track where basically most people will say, and particularly qualifying, the driver has very little to do with it. Here the driver has everything to do with it. Talladega, you get in the car, you put the throttle to the floor, and that's all you really have to do. Here, there's a lot of work to be done. A lot of steering, a lot of brake, gas, a lot of finesse around a track like this, and drivers enjoy this kind of race. I think we got another car around here, guys.
My goodness.
Got another car around.
Cautions breed cautions as Greg Biffle has a slide through the grass at start finish.
Maybe these guys, you can't run wide open at Richmond. Maybe that's the problem.
Well, you know, and I think this is the same tire. I know it's the Phoenix tire.
Exactly.
And I don't know if it's different than what we've had here before.
We'll talk about that in a minute. I think you'll see Greg Biffle.
Which this is kind of normal for this racetrack. Getting loose up off of turn 4 like that is something that you really kind of have to deal with, because you got a lot of wheel in it. You're wide open in the throttle. Sometimes the back end will snap out like that.
From Jeff Burton's point of view.
The car just came around on him late exit of turn 4.
Yep.
So it's an exciting practice session in Richmond, and it's only, what, 5 minutes old. Stick around. Speed's coverage of NASCAR Sprint Cup practice is brought to you by True Value, the tools, products, and expert advice for all your product needs. True Value. Start right, start here. By the new Kentucky Grilled Chicken. Taste the unfried side of KFC. And by Frost Brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. 2 incidents early. Greg Biffle's spin through the infield grass produced no damage, but Dale Jr.'s bout with the turn 2 wall did. Dick Berggren.
Junior is still in his race car. He's got the window net is still up, Mike. He hasn't talked to anybody since he has come in here. Tony Uri Jr. and the rest of the crew are working on the car. It appears to be all cosmetic damage to Junior's race car. No big deal. They should be able to get him back out within the next 15 or 20 minutes. Ironically, Juan Pablo Montoya, with whom Earnhardt came in contact to start that thing, is parked right next to him with a great big black donut mark on the right side door.
And Larry, you know, something that I don't think we see every weekend, Tony Uri Jr., the crew chief, is down there fixing the race car.
Well, he knows that this is precious track time that they're losing. Like we talked at the top of the show, you only have these 2 hour-and-a-half practice sessions. The clock's ticking when you're sitting in that garage, Jerry. So he's right in the middle of those boys just digging away.
Now here's the 09, the Miccosukee Indian Gaming Dodge, not Chevrolet as last week at Talladega, because James Finch's team has quite a variety in their stable of cars and drivers. Mike Bliss behind the wheel.
And next week at Darlington, it will be Sterling Marling. But I talked to Mark Reno, the crew chief, earlier this week, about midweek, once they quit celebrating, and they are putting a Chevrolet together. This is a Dodge. They're putting a Chevrolet together to run Brad Keselowski in the All-Star race at Lowe's Motor Speedway. You know, everything has been said this week, guys, about what that win did for Brad Keselowski. You know, it put him in the All-Star race in 2009 and 2010. Talk to Mark Reno, as I said, the things it did for that race team. Do you realize they're well outside the top 35? If it rains, they are in the show because they are a winning car number, a winning car number, and that's this year and next year. So that did a lot for that race team.
And I believe that doesn't that win also put James Finch's 09 team on NASCAR's winner's circle, which is a bonus money program for the car owners.
Yeah, it should. Yeah. It should, because the only criteria there is you got to run all the races. I don't think you have to be in the top 35 to qualify. If you do, I'm not aware of that.
Now, Brad Keselowski, we were talking this morning, Mike. Brad Keselowski is the first Nationwide Series regular that doesn't run the full Cup schedule to win a Cup race since Jamie McMurray did it substituting for Sterling Marling back in 2002.
Let's check with Matt Yoakum.
Mike, Denny Hamlin grew up in nearby Chesterfield, Virginia. Last night his homecoming began with an event at his old short track, Southside Speedway. The Denny Hamlin Foundation raised over $100,000. He had a few of his Cup buddies show up, had a great event. They're going to plan more in the future, but what he really wants now is his day job has begun. He wants to get a win here at Richmond. He has finished second. He has finished third. Last year, he dominated, led 381 of 400 laps, but finished 24th. His worst finish here at Richmond. He really wants to put a check mark next to that huge goal of winning here at RIR. Right now, the car a little free, an adjustment to fix that, and they also adjusted the steering column to move the wheel a little closer.
Thanks, Matt. Kyle Busch won that race last night. Here's a look at Denny Hamlin through 6 short track appearances.
That was last year, I think, the 6 short track races. We have 6 short track races, 2 at Martinsville, 2 here at Richmond, and 2 at Bristol.
That car last year here was so good. And we all stood up here, and when you have a car that good, you just are waiting for something to happen to it.
And it did.
You keep waiting for the motor to blow up. Something will happen. And son of a gun, if it didn't happen, had a flat tire.
He coulda, woulda, shoulda won it.
Oh yeah, easily.
You're going to need 3 boxes of Crayolas to keep up with all the special paint schemes this weekend. This is not one of them. This is Jeff Gordon's usual paint job on his DuPont Chevy from Hendrick Motorsports.
I reckon we won't be running the Pepsi Challenger anymore.
It was short.
I don't reckon we'll be running that anymore.
No, perhaps not. That might be a one and done.
I think it was.
Well, the car's done. We know that. Joey Logano was quick in nationwide practice. He's one of 11 drivers doing double duty. And he's 14th on the board now.
Just quickly, I told Rick Hendrick before the race, I said, I sure would like to have that car.
No, you wouldn't.
Guess what he told me?
You can have it
after the race. Come and get it.
Yeah, right.
Now, you know, Joey was attempting to qualify for the race here in the fall, but because he was in a car that was outside the top 35, obviously it was not the 20 car, the rains moved in, and he did not get to run that race in the fall.
Yeah, he was here in a Gibbs car. I think it was the
Yes.
02 car.
Yes.
But as you said, didn't get to race.
Did we ever figure out if he's going to be in the All-Star race or not? Logano? Yeah.
We've got to find that out.
Yeah, because I've
had
had a million people ask me that, and I don't really have the answer. I think
We're
it's the
being
driver.
told that he needs to be voted in or race his way in.
Yeah, he isn't in because the car, it's not the car, it's the driver.
That's my understanding. We'll check further.
If you're not already in it, the shots you have left is you can win here, you can win at Darlington, be one of the top 2 finishers in that race before the All-Star race, or be voted in.
We do have a new points leader this week, Kurt Busch, with Jeff Gordon exiting the race at lap 7. Actually, and going to the garage and coming back out and having a fierce race-long battle with Kevin Harvick for 37th, which we documented. And people thought we were being sarcastic. You know, we weren't. Those two cars ran nose to tail, batted each other all day. We just felt you had to see it.
Well, the worst thing a driver wants to do is go back out on the racetrack in a car that's been wrecked, that won't run up to speed, and ride around out there just putting down laps to get to the end. So there at Talladega, it was kind of fun because we saw a couple of groups. We saw the 44 and the
3 of the Richard Petty Motorsports cars at one point.
44 and the 9, they were racing with or helping each other. I guess you call it racing. And then you saw the 24 and Kevin Harvick. They were racing each other, which was kind of it was entertaining.
59 laps down
for them.
Yeah. Matt Kenseth had an interesting weekend as well with a flip on Saturday and was involved on Sunday. Let's check with Dick Berger.
Well, Kevin Harvick is in the garage, Mike, and probably he is trying to figure out who all these people are that are working on his car. This entire team has been swapped around, and this is the first practice session that they have had with the same guys that used to work for Casey Mears. So it'll be most interesting to see how it goes. Gil Martin is now the crew chief over here, and he had previously been a crew chief for Harvick. In fact, together they won in 2002 in Chicagoland. It's all about Richard Childress trying to shake up 2 of his teams that had not doing as well as hoped for. With new people, maybe that'll work. Who knows?
And because Gil Martin and Todd Berry actually took some of their own race cars with them, and remember, Gil Martin was with Clint Boyer. This was an 07 car. This is the car that won here a year ago with Clint Boyer, that car that Harvick is driving here.
Martin Truex Jr., quickest in this practice so far. It's only 15 minutes old, so settle in and stick around. You need to be there. Tickets start at just $25. Call the number on your screen or visit the Speedway website for the NASCAR Sprint All-Star Race. 25. Dale Jr. has made repairs on the National Guard Chevy. Well, his team made the repairs, and he's back out there. And we've checked on the Logano situation. This year's rules for the All-Star race, it's all about the drivers. There is no exemption into the finale for winning car owners from previous years. You had to win a race in 08 or 09, and there are other criteria, but it's all driver criteria, not car owner based.
So that means that if Brad Keselowski, like next week, I think at Darlington, he's going to drive a Hendrick Motorsports car. For the only way the 09 can be in that All-Star race is Brad Keselowski has to be in it to drive it. Otherwise, it's just Brad.
I believe so. Now, I'm not sure that James Finch couldn't get another pass winning driver who's not active.
Yes, exactly.
But it has to be it's driver, not owner.
Brad is in.
Yes.
Right. You're right.
And based on my history with the All-Star race, I don't think I'd build a car just for the All-Star race. Because usually that's about the only place you get to use it.
I can vouch
You know
for
what
that.
I'm talking about, don't you?
Yes.
I have a lot of proof in my pocket of that.
Sam Hornish had a great qualifying run and a great finish. And Darrell, take us for a ride around Richmond with Jeff Burton in the Prilosec Chevy here.
You know, drivers love this racetrack. You got this big sweeping turn here getting down into one, and certainly this is a place that you can do a lot of passing. You get under a guy really tight off of turn 2 here. You always have to fight stand off the wall coming off of 2 because you run out of banking and it comes up on the straightaway. Then you dive off into turn 3, heavy braking, and then getting up off of turn 4. The car really, really wants to get loose with you, as we saw with Greg Biffle.
You know, Darrell, you've said it many times. It's almost like the perfect little racetrack. It's the right size to race 43 cars on. The 14 degrees of banking in the corners promotes good side-by-side racing. We have 2 pushing toward 3 grooves at this racetrack.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, what I used to love about this place when they put sealer on it, and they'd get a groove worn in around the bottom, and that worked really good when you had new tires. Then as the tires went away, you'd start sliding up the track a little bit, picking up that sealer, and then you'd really be able to see some good high, wide, and handsome racing.
And when you got sideways and spun like Biffle did, the whole place would get coated in this yellow haze.
Yeah,
of the sealer.
It was weird. It's like a purple haze.
Tony is 13. Boy, he had a great run going at Talladega till the engine dropped the cylinder in the late going. On the one hand, it was a shame. It made for a bad finish. On the other hand, it kept him out of the last lap crash.
Yeah, he said he almost didn't realize that engine was in trouble until they restarted after that caution. I think it actually broke a valve spring.
Okay. Here's Matt.
Mike, Jeff Gordon ran 8 laps, brought the 24 machine back in the garage. They put it up on scales, making a lot of different changes. Jeff simply said the car is way off right here. Let's go across the garage here to Dick Bergeron.
With Matt Kenseth, he is out of the car. A lot of work being done on this hot rod. He's a winner in both the IROC Series and the Cup Series. But boy, a lot going on here. What are they trying to fix?
Just trying to get it drive good, really. We haven't ran very good at Richmond with our dual team since we really switched to this car. So it's been a really fun track. I was like running here. We just been off and we unloaded a fair amount off. So we're just trying a different package to see if we can get it to turn a little better.
And you took a wild ride on Saturday at Talladega. Were you okay on Sunday? Did you feel any racer's rheumatism?
No, I was good. I was real good until we had a flat tire with 8 to go, and that kind of ruined our day. So it seems the way that things have been going here lately. So we had ourselves, I thought, in a pretty good position on Saturday and Sunday. We were second, I think, within 10 to go in both races, and ended up terrible both races. So hopefully we'll get a little better luck this week.
Yeah, good luck at Richmond. Thanks.
And you know, guys, he comes in here 12th in the points, and we were talking the other day on our conference call. When we leave here in the spring, roughly 80% of the drivers that are in the top 12, they're in the top 12 in the checker flag waves here in the fall, which is symbolic of the 12 drivers that will move on to the chase.
Another of those new paint schemes, Reed Sorensen, Kerry McDonald's McCafe colors on the Kings 43. Martin Truex, Ryan Newman, David Rudiman face this practice session. Tomorrow on Speed, NASCAR Race Day roars into Richmond. That'll be Jimmy. Tune in as the Ultimate Pre-Race Show weighs in on the controversial finish in Talladega. NASCAR Race Day built by the Home Depot. Live coverage tomorrow, 5 Eastern.
You know what I like about that Talladega race? All these people that are all up in arms about the Talladega race and what are we going to do and how are we going to fix this, how are we going to fix that. All the polls I saw, 80% of the fans said, leave the car alone. Leave the track alone. Leave the racing alone. We really liked what we saw. So who are we appealing to these days?
I think we all agree, Darrell, and I think the only but in that statement is that a car did get into the fence. But the fence did its job. The catch fence, the cables supporting it, everything performed just as it was designed to.
And that car would have never got, I mean, it was the perfect storm.
Yes.
If Ryan Newman doesn't run under the 99 car, the 99 car just goes up and hits the wall and flies back down the racetrack. It was when Ryan got under him and launched him is what sent him up in the fence. But that fence, when you think about a 3,450-pound car slams into the fence, I mean, it did its job.
I don't think we probably documented enough the lick that this race car took last week. And let's take a look at it here, and I think you'll see what I'm talking about on this 39 car.
Yeah, now Newman's in third, trying to sweep around the outside with Dale Jr. And is he in the wrong place at the wrong time? This is the angle really shows it.
Oh.
Right in the headlight and windshield post.
Yes, sir. I think that was definitely one of the harder licks right there. I know Carl's car looked terrible, and it was, but that licked the 39 car. But funny story, I was talking to the 39 crew this morning, and they said, do you know why he went ahead and crossed the finish line and ended up finishing third? The throttle was hung wide open on it. There was nothing he could do. That's the reason he went all the way down to turn 1 and 2 before he finally got the thing woed down.
Wow. I think the officials were watching our replay and thought it was on this track, so they threw a red flag.
Actually,
I think someone left one of their tools on one of the race cars. They say there's a screwdriver laying out on the racetrack.
You can always tell the teams that have free tools. A lot of them end up on the racetrack.
And an official gets a souvenir. Carl was on Larry King last night. Larry asked him, why'd you run across the finish line? And he said, well, he smiled and said, I'm a big Will Ferrell fan.
I just remember seeing a lot of lightning and thunder around. There had been some rain scattered, and as soon as they dropped the green flag, it just started pouring. And we all went into turn 1, and you know, it was just like ice.
Oh, car sideways. All the cars are loose down in the corner. The track is wet. It's Gordon, Michael Waltrip, Kevin 29 car. All these cars are wrecking because I believe it might be raining down there. Unbelievable.
And the rain is coming even harder.
We started the race on a wet track. I mean, we got to turn 1, and 20 of the best race car drivers in the world all about wiped out.
Oh, for Pete's sake. What a way to start this event.
The rules are a lot different in that race. Allowed us to get the backup cars out since there were so many torn up race cars. And there was a lot of rain, so we had time. We changed the engine out of the primary car into the backup car because that was a great engine in that car. And miraculously came from the back and ended up winning that All-Star event that year.
Celebrating 25 years of All-Star memories. Don't miss the NASCAR Sprint All-Star Race on Speed, Saturday, May 16th, 7 p.m. Eastern. NASCAR on Speed. Be there.
I remember that was the night we had to take our vortex theory about preventing the rain and kind of shelve that and put that away for a while. I guess from our view, the race didn't start soon enough to keep the rain away. Boy,
no, we never got
it just poured all of a sudden.
We never got the vortex kicked in. I mean, we didn't get time to get it wound up.
Get a good look at Richard Petty because I'm not sure if he's going to be at Darlington or at the All-Star race with John Andretti going off to race his car in the Indianapolis 500 this year. It'll be now Richard's been to Indianapolis before, but not as a car owner.
It's one of his cars, A.J. Allmendinger, the 44 car. Had a rough weekend last weekend. They had engine problems right off the bat in practice. Got qualified, of course, had to go to the rear of the field because of the engine change, and then was caught up in one of the wrecks.
Had trouble at Phoenix. So he's had a couple of bad weeks.
They have PVA.org on the car, Paralyzed Veterans of America. They've got a big go-kart race coming up, and we've got a lot of service-related initiatives going on here this weekend, too, and including the title of the race.
Yeah, Jamie McMurray, I think he spent some good bit of time. He went to a hospital locally here somewhere with the guy. What's the guy's name? It's
Russ Friedman.
Russ Friedman.
Yeah. And
he went to a hospital yesterday, and just really, I love the way our guys, all of them, reach out to the military, all branches of the military.
You know, I know we saw Richard Petty, and of course, when we think about Bristol, we always think about DW, of course, the number of races he won there. But when you look at Richard Petty here at Richmond, now remember, this track was changed to a 3/4 mile back in 1988. 13 wins, 34 top 5s, and 41 top 10 finishes here at Richmond.
And you, as a race fan, if you never got to see us race on the old fairgrounds, back when it was a half mile with guardrail around it and the old wooden grandstand, I mean, that's the way racing was back in the day. And to see Richard Petty and Bobby Allison, Cale, and all those Dale, me, all of us, and Neil Bonnet racing on that little bitty half-mile racetrack with the sealer on it. It was always slick, and you slid around and hung into the guardrail. And
yeah, and just a double-stranded guardrail on the outside.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a number of times. Once Neil Bonnet went all the way through the guardrail off turn 2. And then
car went in like an arrow and just stuck.
It just stuck. The only thing that was sticking out was the rear wheels. And it wasn't too long after that till me and Dale, I went through the guardrail in turn 3. I saw Richard Petty win a race here in 1975, I think it was, in his Dodge. He came off turn 4 on top of the guardrail.
Wow.
Rode the guardrail past the start-finish line. Car came back down in the racetrack and kept on digging. Never lifted.
Honestly, guys, if you look, the half-mile racetrack, the front stretch was about where pit road is.
Yeah,
and the back stretch is about the same place. They just, it was shrunk down to a half mile.
Yeah, they just, what they did is they came off turn 4. They just brought this D, or widened out the front down into turn 1 and made it into a 3/4 mile. Paul Sawyer, I mean, this was his vision.
He was a visionary, you're right.
And this was what he visioned this place to be someday.
3 drivers in this weekend's field raced on the half mile. Denny Hamlin is not one of them. Matt.
Mike, 55 minutes left in this practice session. Denny Hamlin currently 6th. All 3 Gibbs cars 17th or better. Hamlin said the center really wasn't an issue for his car. The entry and exit, 4 and 1, not too bad. His biggest issue before he went back out and they made some changes to try to make the car better was he felt like the motor was sputtering a little bit and it had a weird surge on the backstretch. So that was Denny's bigger concern. After going back out, he really hasn't made any more comments about that issue.
Thanks, Matt.
The surge is coming. If you look at the wind, it's blowing really hard, and when you go down the back straightaway, that wind will get up under the front of the car, puff the front end up a little bit, and make the engine feel like it's not running correctly.
David Rudiman in conference.
How about Rudiman? I mean, this is a track where, you know, last year he sort of made a statement. Came in here, he led most laps in the race, finished
in
ninth
the fall race.
In the fall race, and here he is 3rd today.
Now, an interesting deal for the 41. This is Jeremy Mayfield's car. He is the owner driver. And I know if you look quick, it looks like the old Coors Light car. But it's not. This is smallsponsor.com. It's an interesting initiative that they have, trying to gain people who would like to sponsor a race car but can't do the whole deal. This website will help put you together with other people who are like-minded to give small businesses a chance to sponsor a car in NASCAR Sprint Cup racing. So we wish him well with that.
You know, Jeremy has a win here. In fact, it's the year that he won the race that catapulted him into the chase that year.
By the way, the 3 drivers who raced on the half mile and are still racing here this weekend: Mark Martin.
Yeah.
Michael Waltrip.
Yeah. And
Trevor Boyes.
I think that was an answer at Phoenix too, wasn't it?
All right. If it's about the Nationwide Series,
it's
the
Harry
answer is
Gant.
always Harry Gant and Mark Martin. Over here, it's Trevor Boyes. Yeah. No change in the top 5. In fact, no change in the top 25 since the first 7 laps of this practice session, as we have a look at Carl Edwards.
Yeah, there goes Carl. He looks a lot better this week than he did last week at the end of the race. You know, I'm not going to brag on Martin Truex yet, because I remember Phoenix, and this track's very similar to Phoenix. Same tires, a lot of similarities. Martin Truex, I think, was the fastest car all through practice.
That's right.
And we accept, oh, this is Martin's week, this is Martin's week. And I don't remember what happened.
But he did have a good finish. He ended up finishing 7th.
But he had trouble qualifying.
Yeah,
no,
definitely.
Just wasn't at the front.
Yeah, he didn't qualify
like we thought
well.
He could be.
Yeah. And of course,
Dick?
Well, Buzzy Rudiman, who is David's dad, just told me moments ago, drivers are never satisfied. Well, David, you're 3rd on the board. They've got your car up on scales. They're working on it like crazy. What's wrong? What are they trying to fix?
We're just trying to make it turn the center a little bit better. And, you know, you fight, or at least we're fighting from the center off here. As you get closer to the wall, the car's a little bit free. So got a pretty good Center Dream machine. We just, you got to keep working on it, man. You got all this practice time. You got to try to get it better, because if you don't work on it, everybody else's stuff's getting better, and we'll just get there a little bit at a time.
All right, and his dad's going to be 68 years old next week, Buzzy Rudiman.
Wow.
And still racing, I might
add.
And
still winning.
Yep.
On the short tracks.
That's his car owner.
Right. Rudiman's the fastest Toyota. Here is Mark Martin. He's 4th among the Chevys, 10th overall. Jamie McMurray is the fastest Ford, and David Stremme is the quickest Dodge right now.
And Mark's doing a little double duty here this weekend. He's actually driving the 5 car for JR Motorsports in the Nationwide Series.
looks like 11 drivers are doing both races this weekend.
Mark's the only one of the 14 past Richmond winners in this field who's in the top 10 right now in this practice.
You know, probably the biggest thing I remember about one of Mark's wins here was the fact that in post-race inspection, it was something to do with the height of the intake manifold.
Yeah, they had welded the spacer to the manifold, and I think it was 1/4 of an inch too tall. It was some minor. It wasn't very much.
Yeah, I thought the height was okay, Darrell, but the fact that they had welded it together was gave a 50-point penalty.
You could have a spacer bolted on, but you can have a spacer welded on.
That was it.
Some technicality that none of us really quite understood. But.
And like you said, a 50-point penalty, even though that was earlier in the year, he lost the championship by less than 50 points.
Right. How about Joe Nemechek last week in Talladega?
26 points, wasn't he? Yeah.
Joe, you know, we talked about Joe in qualifying and said, boy, he'd sure love to be able to run all day if somebody would step up and help him out with tires so he could do so. They did. He did. And Joe had a real good run.
Qualified 17th, finished 14th. You know, Joe, this group, they've only missed 2 races. They missed Daytona. They missed Texas. Definitely those boys. I talked to Felipe Lopez, Derek Finley down there at the car this morning, said, still got blank quarter panels in the blank hood, but the phone's starting to ring just a little bit. He actually had a good run even in the Nationwide Series on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, Joe and his family, his mom, his dad, Martha, Mom Martha and his dad, Joe, I mean, they are a racing family. And quite honestly, I'm not so sure this isn't the best route for Joe to take. If he could get a little money, you know, some sponsorship on that car, have a small operation that he oversees and his mom and dad helps out with, I think that's the way for Joe to go.
Well, right now he's 14th on the board, 3rd among the go-or-go-homers. He is 40th in points, so not about to make the top 35, not for a while. Clint Boyer is 20th on the speed chart. He has run 13 laps in the BB&T Chevrolet for Richard Childress.
Yeah, he only led 3 laps last year, but it was the correct 3 laps. It was at the end after Kyle Busch and Dale Earnhardt Jr. got together, and of course that's the last time that Clint went to victory lane was a year ago. You know, one thing I don't know that we mentioned, we have 45 cars here, so that means 2 cars will go home. Right now, Tony Raines is the slowest of the cars that's practiced. This is the fastest of the go-homers right here. One car that's not been on the racetrack, you mentioned him a while ago, Trevor Boyce.
Now, Dave Blaney, quickest. Dave was not at Talladega. He had a family commitment, and that car missed the show. But he is
he's not going to miss it here, I don't think.
Not going to miss it here, no sir.
He's a 5th quick right now. Pretty nice lap he laid down.
Here are the drivers who must qualify on time based on their practice speed as of right now. Mayfield, Bodine, and Raines are in a very tight grouping down there at the bottom of the list. And as you mentioned, Larry, Trevor Boyce has not yet made it on the racetrack.
Tell you, looking at that 82 car right now, Scott Speed, 21st. Boy, did those guys ever get a shot in the arm last week by a good top 5 finish for that group.
And Larry, I think he said he was running like 14th or somewhere back in there going down the back straightaway on the last lap.
Now you saw Trevor Boy's car. A lot of work going on as they try to get him ready to finish inspection and to practice. Let's go back to the garage. Kevin Harvick's car. Dick Berggren.
Well, although Martinsville has the reputation of being the toughest on brakes, the brakes have got to be really good if you're going to win here at Richmond as well. And Harvick's crew right now is in the process of changing the rear pads on his car in the hopes that it'll help him get into the corner even better. They've got 4 brand new rotors sitting in front of the car, a set of brake pads ready to go on it in addition to what we're looking at here. Brakes, a critical element of racing well at Richmond.
But honestly, this place can be almost harder on brakes than Martinsville. Like Darrell mentioned, you carry a ton more speed off in the corner. At Martinsville, when you get out of the throttle, you have a 650 gear deaccelerating you. Here, it's a 514 gear. I will guarantee you there's been a lot of teams that they've come here and they've had brake issues.
Oh, yeah. Here you almost ride the car down with the brakes. Like you get on them early down into turn 1 and you just ride the brakes all the way to the middle of the corner. Creates a lot of heat.
Saw Greg Biffle looking for some speed. They are 32nd out of 44 cars right now. Speed's coverage of NASCAR Sprint Cup practice is brought to you by Polaris. See the hardest working, smoothest riding off-road vehicles now at your local dealer.
Teammates wanting to chat a little bit there. Clint Boyer and Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, Boyer's asking Kevin, said, well, how's the swap going? Does this car drive any better, drive any worse?
You know what was interesting? Gil Martin has worked with Kevin Harvick. They actually won a race at Chicagoland back in 2002 together. But Todd Berrier has never worked with Casey Mears in the 07 car. And Casey even said this in his quotes. He said he knows for a fact that Todd Berrier communicated with some of his ex-crew chiefs that's looked over Casey Mears just to kind of get a feel for what to expect with Casey.
Well, that would be a pretty big meeting, because Casey has had a lot of crew chiefs over the last couple of years. And that was, remember earlier in one of our practice shows, I said I hope he finally got somewhere where he could settle in with the same team, same crew chief, get some consistency. Well, that didn't last long.
Harvick getting ready to go back out. I think he was fastest in nationwide practice earlier over Carl Edwards, Mark Martin, Mike Bliss, Kyle Busch, and Jason Leffler.
That's a beautiful. Do you see that helmet? Yeah. That thing was pretty.
Kevin's nationwide series deal just keeps getting better and better and stronger and stronger.
Now, the ruling on Trevor Boys is you do have to practice to be able to run a qualifying lap. However, the series director, in this case John Darby, can review the situation and
the front just won't pull around the corner
and offer you an exemption. So the rule says yes, but.
Yeah, well, I know that there have been incidences where you didn't get to practice, but they allowed you to go qualify.
And the order of inspection, they pre-inspect the cars outside the top 35 through the templates, but then inspection goes defending champion, this year's car owner points. So by the time they got to Trevor Boys, it was quite a ways down the line, and I'm not sure if they're making repairs to get that car re-inspected or just making repairs.
I don't think Brian is playing tic-tac-toe either. I think he's a little more serious than that with his old notebook there.
Downloading data. NASCAR Day coming up soon. I'd like you to be a participant. Wear your colors. Support your favorite driver and support your favorite sport on NASCAR Day for a couple of really good causes.
It's a good deal. You know, Larry, this is one of those places where if we're going to hear Dale Jr. say it's rolling over on the right front or it's falling over on the right front, this is one of those places that'll do it, because getting into turn one here, the way you sweep down in there, heavy braking, you really, really roll over hard on the right front.
Yeah, and this place is so much like Phoenix, and you heard David Rudiman talking about getting his car to rotate and turn better, but not be loose off. That's one of the biggest challenges and one of the biggest tightropes you walk, getting it to turn, but stay nice and snug off the corner.
Under power, forward bite.
Well, we're still up here looking in the rule book to see if Carl Edwards running across the finish line counted as finishing the final lap last week. Matt Yoakum's in his garage.
And Mike, a lot of conversation going on between his crew chief Bob Osborne and several crew members here in the 99, the Aflac Ford, trying to get this 99 machine more to Carl's liking. He says the car way too tight in the middle, and then just a handful on entry and exit, too free. Bob is wondering maybe if they run a few more laps, go a little longer on a run than they have been, just to see if the car will change even more dramatic. And DW's talked about that a lot. Sometimes you really don't learn the trend that you're seeing on a 5 or 6 lap run when they go out, come back in, go back out, come back in. But currently he's 26th in practice.
Thanks, Matt. And the rest of the story is no, Carl only finished 187 laps. This does not count. For Darrell explained it with the simplest of reasons.
Yeah, it's a car race.
Right.
Not a foot race.
Somebody even asked me, well, what if he'd taken off the scoring transponder and carried it across the line with him? And the answer is still
it's a car race.
Right. But it was a great piece of theater.
It was for him personally.
Yep. He says, I just wanted to finish the race. And as he told Larry King the other night, besides, I'm a big Will Ferrell fan.
And I wish I'd have remembered to tell him that he was not on fire.
Yeah. You know what? The best thing is, after that wild ride, that we can all laugh about.
No, it is.
Yeah. Boy, Scott Speed had a great run at Talladega. They'd had some disappointments the previous week, missing a couple races, and right back on it. He's 102 points out of the top 35 before Talladega, and now he's just 18 points away.
Yeah, and I heard him say, on the show I was watching that he was like 13th, 14th, 15th, somewhere along in there going down the back straightaway on the last lap.
Wow.
And when everything shook out and they got across the start-finish line, he was 5th. Pretty amazing.
But I'm going to tell you, when you look at, you just saw the graphic there, but when you look at our 2 full-blown Robestos Rookie of the Year candidates, Joey Logano and Scott Speed, the season they've had up to Talladega, for both of them to get top 10 runs, that was big for those 2 rookies.
It sure was. Now, how about Speed's teammate, Dick Berggren?
Well, that's Brian Vickers. He had a good weekend last weekend, Mike, finishing in the 8th spot, but he's having his problems here today at Richmond. They just spent an awful lot of time working underneath that race car. It's a brand new car, and it's been dragging the racetrack. So they've been under there with grinders and wrenches and all sorts of things. And oh, by the way, nobody's ever gone faster here at Richmond than Brian Vickers. He holds the track record of nearly 130 miles an hour.
Yeah, he set that back in May of 2004. He ran 20.772. So right now, you know, substantially slower. Right, Martin Truex Jr.'s fast lap is a 21.94.
Yeah, these guys will qualify at about a 21.40, would be my guess. 35 or 40 when you see that kind of practice speed. I don't think too many of them are making qualifying runs just yet, so we'll see where it goes.
You know, Darrell, you raised the question very early in the show about the tire situation here, and this is pretty normal. They run the same tire combination, Phoenix and Richmond, and all the results were based off of a tire test that was done back in January at Phoenix. They didn't actually do a tire test here. This is the same right side we ran, but there's been a compound change on the left side tire to just give the left side tire more grip.
Now this car is it's not hard on left side tires because of the high roll center and the way the thing wants to always tip over to the right. So they've been able to really do a lot of work with the left side tires to try to improve grip, and it's really worked well for them.
Matt?
Well, Mike, we touched on it earlier. Clint Boyer looking for another win here at Richmond. So you've talked to your teammates, you've talked to your crew chief, your car owner, even Mike Helton. So give us the Cliff Notes version of Clint Boyer's day today.
Just trying to figure it out, man. You know, I mean, we won here last year, had a really fast car, but that's how the sport changes on you. You know, the very same setup just doesn't work anymore. Tire's different, so we're trying to figure out what this tire wants. It's got to do a lot of different slip angles and stuff like that. So, you know, we have to change the front end a lot, push it in the middle pretty bad, and just trying to get it to rotate the middle, but then not kill it up off. Seems like everybody's really loose off of 4, and we're fighting the same thing. So first things first, you got to fix the entrance in the middle of the corner, and then we'll worry about the exit.
All right, thank you, Clinton. You know, we touched on it earlier. Richard Petty had 13 wins here, and there's a crew member on this team that think that's a very special accomplishment, not because of what the driver did, but because the engine builder. Timmy Petty, Maurice Petty's son, is the engine tuner here on the 33. He's up at the right front corner of the car. He's got a lot of special memories here of Richmond as well.
Timmy, hold up your hand.
That was the wrong guy. He held up the wrong guy. Held his hand up.
I may not be your man. Thanks pretty high.
X-Men Origins Wolverine slashes its way into theaters near you beginning today. Trevor Boys is on the racetrack. So that means all 45 drivers have had a chance to practice. Dick Berggren's with one of them.
And it's Marcos Ambrose, who last week finished 4th, a career best at Talladega. Right now 7th on the board. Are you having fun with this stuff or what?
I sure am, and this week we've got our secret weapon. We've got a can of beans in the back.
A can of beans in the back of the car?
Yeah, some people run nitrous, we just run Bush's beans.
I'm not going to go anywhere near that. Mike Joy, you take it. Go ahead.
Well, the cars run on Sunoco gas. I don't know what Marcos runs on. Well, I guess I do. He's got the hat to prove it and the suit.
Bino.
Bush's has been a sponsor here in NASCAR for quite a number of years. Occasionally, they're headquartered near Richmond. It's a family-owned business, and why are you laughing so hard? They make great beans.
They do. I love their beans. Eat them all the time.
Not in this booth. Maybe later.
Beans, beans.
The musical fruit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stop right there. There may be children listening.
Are you kidding? They're the ones that finished the rhyme.
That's right.
There's Trevor Boys, the 06 car, tempted to make the race at Phoenix, and he was actually telling me earlier that he's going to try to run a lot of races the rest of this year. But you know, there's really not a rule, Mike. But I think it's pretty much NASCAR's judgment. Even though he ran a ton of races back in the day, he's been away for a long time, and I think he pretty much knows. He's been told that he needs to qualify for this race at this 3/4 mile racetrack really before he's eligible to attempt to qualify at Darlington next week.
Yeah, Larry, I mean, I understand. No matter how well-intentioned somebody is, you want people out on the racetrack who are going to be competitive within their peer group. As you saw, Boys out there not holding up Tony Stewart, but
yeah, but right now he's 2 seconds off what Tony's running. He's running 24.6. 24.6. Tony's running 22.6.
Yeah, for example, Kyle Busch came out of the garage. His very first lap was a 22.06. Right out of the box.
You know, we were talking about Tony Stewart in the 14 car earlier. Saw that he had 3 wins here. Now he has 33 career wins, but his very first win was right here in 1999, the fall race during his rookie season. That's where it all started, going to victory lane in the Cup Series. Right now he's 13th quickest. He's run a total of 23 laps, the most laps run by anybody. This comes as a surprise. Mark Martin's run 45 laps.
Because Mark always has a good car in the race too, because he gets a lot of practice laps.
All right, we're 1 hour into this practice session. 1 spin, 1 car in the fence, no big damage. Tickets start at just $25 for the NASCAR Sprint All-Star Race. Call the number on your screen or visit the Lowe's Motor Speedway website. Red flag is out because Trevor Boys went way up the racetrack in turn 2, didn't get the wall, but the next car to come along, which was the 34, got even closer, and
I think he hit it. Close. I think he hit it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was John Andretti. That was all the way up against the wall right after Trevor Boys was up there.
Yeah, you see the skid marks all the way to the wall, as if maybe he cut a tire down. I'm not sure those are his skid marks.
You know, that might
right
be
up where the truck.
I think that might be Junior's skid marks there.
I don't think John got the wall.
I believe John got to it, but I don't believe he hit it.
You know, Mike, you were talking a while ago. You're absolutely right on these go or go homers. It's going to be awfully tight, I think, when we do have qualifying.
See John up here high. Yeah, when you get up high at this racetrack, there's a lot of dirt and debris. You can see it all along the outside of the racetrack right here. A lot of rubber, sand, dirt, and all that stuff that builds up. You get that on your tires there, and it's like having 4 flat tires. There, he's get a good shot of it right there. That's just rubber peeling off the tires. You put that on a hot tire, you have no grip.
But right now at the back of the field, now this is practice, but Jeremy Mayfield is a 22.68. Todd Bodine's a 22.70. Tony Raines is a 22.71. That's the 3 cars just right in front of Trevor Boys.
Yeah, very, very close to see who makes it, who goes home. Dick, what happened to John Andretti?
Well, I can't tell you what happened to him other than the fact that the car is absolutely pristine, Mike. He has not hit anything. He's still behind the wheel of the race car with his helmet on. Window net is up. This is not a good time for me to stick the microphone in there.
Okay. Window World is going to follow John to Indy as he attempts to run the 500 for Richard Petty. They're a replacement window company, a big one based in North Wilkesboro, North Carolina.
Dick should have said that he didn't have a window of opportunity to stick it in there right now.
We're going to let you ponder that for this next commercial break. Martin Truex paces this practice session and has almost since it began. Over Ryan Newman, David Rudiman, Kyle Busch, and Dave Blaney, who again this week is the fastest of the go or go home crowd. Blaney, Gilliland, Nemechek, and Scott Speed, the fastest of that group. And the 4 drivers in jeopardy of the 2 spots to go home: Mayfield, Bodine, Raines, and Boys.
Yeah, Martin Truex put that lap down on his 3rd lap. First time out, and it stood ever since practice started.
Matt?
And Mike, DW's exactly right. Martin told me before he climbed back in the car that it had plenty of speed, but just not the feel he's looking for. He just cannot get it to roll to the center of the corner. One other comment he told me, he just did not feel like the front brake, something might have been amiss there. And he also wanted to work on the forward drive-off. Needs to make some headway there, but he says the car had the speed, just not the feel.
Yeah, his fast lap is 21.94. He's been running about a second slower than that in the runs he's making now.
Dick, let's catch up with Dale Jr. It looks like the bodywork is repaired, but how's the car going?
Car's not doing well, Mike. He's 27th quick. That's a long way from where Junior would like to be. So they're about ready to change the left front upper control arm. They've already done work on the right front geometry. Junior says the car in the corners feels as if the front wheels aren't working together, that one of them is towing more than the other. That's called Ackerman, when they don't go exactly the same when you turn in one direction or the other. It's a tough problem to fix, hearing that sort of diagnosis from the driver, but they're doing their best to get her fixed for Junior.
And Dick, watching these fellows work, it looks like it's a rather crowded, cramped garage to work in there. Not a lot of room.
This is an
some tracks.
extremely tight garage, Mike. There are some cars that are parked so close together that the floor jacks have to be used on an angle. Junior's got a little bit more room than some of the other people, at least on the left side, but there's very little room on the right side where Juan Montoya's car is parked.
And the best, I'm sorry, Larry, the best way to fix a car that's not very good is what they're doing right now.
4 fresh tires.
Put 4 stickers on them. You'll be happy for a little while anyway.
Yeah, Mike, the guys that are way back in the points, there's not enough garage stalls here, and we've got 4 or 5 cars actually out on pit road. I'm not so sure that as long as it's not raining, I wouldn't rather be out on pit road. A lot more room out there to work.
Jamie McMurray has been the fastest of the Roush Fenway cars. In fact, the fastest of all the Fords in this session. The Joplin, Missouri driver, 9th overall right now.
We had the pleasure of sitting down with Jamie Mack this morning, just chit-chatting with him a little bit. He's really been on this workout regiment. In fact, he works about 1 to 1.5 hours a day. And what's interesting, he's using a man by the name of Alden Baker, who actually was James Stewart, the motorcycle riders trainer. He's working with him now.
Yeah, he worked with Ricky Carmichael and some of those guys, and he said, boys, really made a difference.
Yeah, he said, Jamie says his weight's come down more than 30 pounds.
I know, that's hard to believe.
Oh. Matt?
And Jamie McMurray, being the last couple runs, he said the car turned better than the run before, but is also a little too loose on braking. And we talked a lot about it, and Jeff Hammond has shown it over at his junkyard, the brake bias and how they adjust front to back, and that's what he's done. He's adjusted the brake bias back to try to help the car a little bit more. Looking pretty good so far in practice, though.
Martin Truex quickest overall in a Chevy. David Ruderman 3rd is the fastest Toyota. Jamie Mack, as we mentioned, 9th is the fastest Ford, and David Stremmy's Dodge is 11th overall and the fastest of that make.
This little group right here, I believe they've got work to do. You see right there, 35th quickest, but I'm just not sure right now, unless you put 4 fresh tires on and you go into a practice qualifying mode, I'm not sure you're going to jump way up the chart, but I think we'll see a difference in the next practice.
I think what you're looking for in this practice is a comfortable setup. Now, we've heard several drivers talk about the cars are not comfortable. I think right now you're probably working more thinking about the race. In the next practice, you'll think more about qualifying, most likely.
Now, there's only one driver who's made a big advance late in this session, and that is Sam Hornish, who is 32nd overall. Everyone else set their fastest lap in their first 6 or 8 laps.
You know, speaking of Sam Hornish, a little bit later on tonight on our trackside show, Sam's going to be one of our guests along with Brian Vickers and Kurt Busch, and we're going to have another guest. I'll give you a hint. Does The Devil Went Down to Georgia ring a bell?
Charlie Daniels?
Charlie Daniels is
really
going to join us on our show.
That's right.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah, he's actually the Grand Marshal here tonight. I think he's going to sing the national anthem, and then he's actually going to perform a concert out on the Midway about 5:15 local time before the Nationwide Series race tonight.
And he lives over in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, which is just up east of Nashville. And you talking about a patriot. Now, this man, don't get him up on his soapbox.
New
box maybe, but soapbox, no.
There you go. New paint scheme for Kyle Busch. Combos on the number 18 this week. A very Hard to figure what to call that color. You could say it's orange, and then again, it's not.
Oh, no, it's a combo.
Oh, goodness. Of course, you're right. The color of the cheese or the, I'm not sure. Here's the Stanley Tools, number 19 for Elliott Sadler.
Celebrating a birthday today.
What a bunch of guys are. Michaels was yesterday. My brother, he's 46. I shouldn't have said that. Yesterday was his birthday. There's some other guys that have birthdays too.
Michael Waltrip, Elliott Sadler, Johnny Sauter, Kyle Busch.
Kyle's is tomorrow.
Hey, and that's big.
Yeah, it is. Could be big.
Because only one driver in history has ever won a NASCAR Cup race on his birthday.
I'll tell you another, this is for a friend of mine at home. Y'all know, y'all have heard me talk about Rooster, right?
Oh, yeah.
Rooster Alexander's worked for me for a long, long time. He was 88 years old Monday. And he still comes to the house every day and takes care of things around the house. And it was his birthday Monday. And he said, tell Dale Jr. that he needs to win the race for my birthday.
All right.
He needs to join about 30 million other people.
And the one driver in history who has won on his birthday is
Dale Yarborough.
Yeah. Speed's presentation of NASCAR Sprint Cup practice is brought to you by Toyota. For the latest Toyota racing information, visit toyotaracing.com. Toyota, moving forward. And by the new Kentucky Grilled Chicken. Taste the unfried side of KFC. Well, where's JJ? I know he's turned 1 on the racetrack, but where is he on the list? 16th. Thanks, Larry. With a 22.62. He's run 54 laps.
You know, when you look at Mark's up there in 10th, but you look at the 48 and 24 and the 88, they got a little work to do here to get up to the top 10.
You know, this place has almost been feast or famine for this 48 car. He's won 3 of the last 4 races. See the repair job. I'm sure they'll work on that a little more before race time, but back to the 48 car. He's won 3 of the last 4 races here at Richmond, but out of 14 starts, he only has 4 top 10 finishes. So it's either been victory lane or outside the top 10.
There's a look at the Hendrick cars. 10th, 16th, 27th, and 35th.
And he's run a total of 63 laps, so there's no question, like Darrell was talking about a while ago, he's working on long runs and being comfortable with that race car.
That's sort of Mark's trademark. I mean, I can remember all through his career, he spent a lot of time on the racetrack during practice sessions, getting him a good, comfortable race set up.
In the you were just dying to know category, the best finish at Richmond by a driver on his birthday. If you think of a local driver who used to celebrate his birthday here every September, in 1982, Ricky Rudd finished 4th.
And it's a very lonely man that looked that up.
Jimmy.
David Reagan in the 6th car.
34th on the board.
I like that paint job they got on that car this weekend. It's kind of neat looking.
Should show up good at night.
Yeah.
Under the lights.
Riding with Denny Hamlin. As much as Hamlin wants to add to his win total in Sprint Cup racing, I think probably nothing meant more to him in this sport than winning here. You know, when all your friends and family are in the stands and you grew up just up the street, what a great validation of what you have done in your career to win one at home.
He's had some good runs here too. I mean, certainly we talked about a dominant performance last year, but I think what was a couple of years ago when Dale Jr. won the race, didn't he come home second that night trying to catch Dale Jr. at the end of the race?
I think he did. Yep,
yes.
He did. And I mean, he was really about ready a year ago to just sweep everything. He won the Nationwide Series on Friday night. He sat on the pole, as Matt documented, you know, led 300 and something laps. So he was just about to not only win here, but basically just dominate the entire weekend at Richmond.
Well, he had us about bored to tears 300 laps into this race, and probably you folks at home too. David Stremme is piloting the Starship Enterprise, or whatever it's called these days, as the latest of the Star Trek movies makes its way to the silver screen. That's what's on his Dodge this weekend. And Stremme is the quickest Dodge in this session, 11th overall.
You know, you're talking about Hamlin. I've been watching his car, and all through practice, it is the best looking car around this racetrack right now. I mean, that thing is stuck to the bottom of the racetrack. Watch him go off into turn 3 here. That thing's going to hunt that yellow line. He gets right down there on it, picks the throttle back up, comes up off the corner nice and straight. That thing's digging, baby.
Well, Darrell, his 22.50 that he ran a lap ago is the best of anybody on the left side of the board in the laps they're running right now. The only driver who's right close on him is Brian Vickers.
And back to the 11 car, I do know that's the same car that they led 296 laps with at Martinsville back in late March and finished second. But rightly so. I know Denny said earlier in the week that they would absolutely start the setup on that car exactly how they led 381 or 400 laps, and then just fine-tune from there, knowing that this left side tire is just a little different.
Yeah, you can see he's run a lot of laps, but just watching the car, look at it. It never moves. Stuck to the bottom, and it really is good up off of both corners, and that's where he had everybody covered here last year, was he could get back in the gas and just come straight up off the corner.
Yeah, he's running 22.60s right now, Darrell, and there's nobody within 0.2 of it.
Yeah.
Dick?
Ryan Newman's about ready to get out of his car, Mike, and he has got a very good race car, both for qualifying this afternoon and for the race tomorrow night as well. He said the car has a lot of lateral grip, and any chassis issues that he is dealing with are very, very minor. Incredibly finished third last week at Talladega with a wrecked car. That was his first top 5 in over a year. But I'll bet, based on the comments we've heard from both Ryan and the people watching this car perform here this afternoon, it's going to be another one tomorrow night.
Well, Dick, the stopwatch backs that up. Newman's last laps were 22.60s and 70s, and that's pretty close to what Denny Hamlin's running.
Yeah, the car looks good, and there's nothing like. I think this team, they didn't get quite the start that Tony Stewart got, his teammate, but I believe this is just a combination crew chief driver that needed a little time to work together, and it's coming around now.
Let's see, Paul Menard is 31st right now, Larry.
And yeah, what I was going to say, I actually talked to Larry Carter, the crew chief for this car this morning. And I tell you quietly, this car is starting to make a little bit of noise. Had a great qualifying run at Phoenix until they had the pit road mishap. You go back to Talladega last week. Yeah, he qualified 24th, but he finished 13th. So you see right there, 2 top 15 finishes in the last 3 races we've had. So starting to make a little noise quietly. But, you know, back to Ryan Newman, he's 13th in the points, only 30 points out of the top 12. I know we still got a lot of racing to go till we come back here, but we've been talking about this a lot. When you look at from Clint Boyer in 8th to Juan Pablo Montoya in 16th, that's 9 drivers. Only 80 points separate those 9 drivers. So wow. I think this is going to be one of the biggest nail-biting chase to the chase that we've had since it became in existence back in 2004.
Here is the top 12. And as you see them, who was it fell out of the top 12 this week? Was it Casey Kane? Yeah.
But the thing about it, this is the most important graphic right there. And honestly, it's not these points. It's how far out of 12th you are. That's what's important right there. This is what I'm talking about. This is what's important.
This is what I'm talking about right here.
See right there, Mark Martin all the way back in 18th. Of course, won Phoenix and then finished dead last at Talladega, being caught up in that crash on lap 6. But you see all those drivers just within 100 points of Matt Kenseth up there in 12th.
And it took Mark about 4 races to come from like 34th or right at 35th to 13th, I think he was, when he going into Talladega or somewhere in there.
Just a few points out of 12.
Points out at 12. Another bad race. Now he's got to dig out of another hole.
Tony Raines has run 15 laps, and they've got to find some speed. His 22.70 is not, well, it's got show-making potential. He's right there. Todd Bodine's a 70, Mayfield a 68. And those 3 are going to be fighting for one last transfer spot Trevor Boys. There's Boys on the inside, and Trevor is not quick enough to have a chance.
No, but he's picked. I tell you, he has picked up a lot of speed. Trevor has. He was in the 24, high 24s. Right now, he's at 23.56. 4 or 5 more tenths.
He's got time. We got another session.
Carl Edwards in the 99 car.
You see Trevor Boys there loose going into the corner. Not good. And here's Carl up to the, oh, hello. You bet that duck's a quacking.
Bet that duck went to the garage area for an adjustment.
Hello.
I don't know what the duck's doing, but he just dodged the wall. I know that.
Just lost a feather or two.
Tail feather.
Advance Auto Parts brings you our Friday menu. NASCAR Live coming up next, and then Sprint Cup final practice at 2, followed by NASCAR Live at 3:30. Nationwide qualifying 4 o'clock Eastern time. Sprint Cup qualifying at 5:30 p.m. and then late in the evening, 11 p.m. Eastern time, you will see trackside with a huge group of guests.
Hope I can stay up.
Tech Berggren.
Oh, you were wondering about Mark Martin in the 5 car. It has been very good until the tail end of practice. Now the car has gotten real loose. It's pushing in the middle. This is the same car that won Phoenix, so no doubt they'll get it dialed in for Richmond.
Thanks, Dick. Daryl, you can stay up for trackside. It's only 10 o'clock Central.
I know.
It's only 10 o'clock slow time, right?
My bedtime, man. I'll be sitting outside at 10 o'clock at night. 11 o'clock local. 7 o'clock in Phoenix.
Well, until then, you'll be listening to the sounds of the Nationwide cars.
What is Matt Yoakum doing?
Ryan's going to stop all. That's too much. Y'all behave yourself.
There's our point standing leader, Kurt Busch, 19th. He is the 3rd fastest Dodge behind Stremme and Kane.
You know, Matt, Mike, you mentioned earlier that, of course, our points leader, Kurt Busch, when you look back 1 year ago, he was 20th in the points after 9 races, 444 points out of the lead. What a difference a year has made.
And over the last 2 races, Kurt Busch has outpointed the former point leader, Jeff Gordon, by 185 in just 2 races. Wow. To get him to the lead. First round of practice is over, and in its 3rd lap, Martin Truex Jr. put up the fastest speed of all. Take a close look down at positions 42 to 45 because they are all go or go homers, and out of those 4, likely 2 will make the race.
Well, as we like to say, next practice, business will pick up.
Oh yeah, well, next practice we'll see how fast we can go. I think I'm gonna go out here and find me some Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Or Kentucky grilled chicken.
Yeah, some unfried chicken.
Right,
I'll have some unfried chicken.
Some of that grilled stuff.
How about some Bush's beans to go with it?
I like that too.
How about not?
Not?
Those are good beans.
They are good, but not for a practice show.
I like that. I like that dog they have in that commercial. You see that one where he comes in with a sheet over him, you know, and the guy the Bush guy, he knows it's a dog because he got his tail hanging out from under the sheet.
Larry knows whose dog it was.
Whose dog was that, Larry?
I don't know. All I have to do is look at the backside.
Hey, we'll see you a little later for Final Cup practice and qualifying and all that stuff.
This is fun. It's a fun show, isn't it?